Welcome everyone, this is E2KGn30. We are back here on a Thursday night for another 30 minutes of gaming news. This is the Enough to Keep Going crew, joined by Osiris Prime and Zeus Adamus. So thank you gentlemen, it's good to have you back. We have not been here in such a long time. It's almost been 25 hours since the last time we sat back down to talk about games, but that's who we are. We're here for you, and we're glad to be here. So, enough of me talking. Let's get into the news this week. We've got it was a holiday week, which means there wasn't a whole lot of news coming at the beginning of the week. But as Osiris Prime just mentioned, that they've held the news for the end of the week. So we've got some segments of last week's news and some things that just happened today as well. So I'm going to start off because I have the floor, and I'm going to start off with today's news. There was a Splatoon Nintendo Direct this morning. It covered a variety of pieces. You know, it talked about some updates to gear and stages and different weapons that they're going to be running throughout the year. They committed to doing Splatfests for the next 2 years, which are kind of their weekend events where you choose a side, you know, hot dogs versus hamburgers or cats versus dogs or things like that. And whoever, you know, what side wins, you get a nice trinket. You know, whether it's a skin for your gun or a new piece of clothing, that's how that works. I think the big piece here is, one, there's a demo that's out already. There's going to be a demo out for the next week and a half before the game comes out on the 21st. And there's also going to be a Splatfest coming up next weekend. So to funnel people in, give a nice availability of anybody that owns a Switch to be able to download the free demo, get in, play it out a little bit before Splatoon 2 launches in a week and a half from now. I think so those are all good pieces. I think the piece that is the most interesting, or was the most interesting for me, is the announcement and the conversation around Splatnet. So this is the first kind of real glimpses we're getting into Nintendo's the online app that Nintendo has promised. You know, the one that is free for now, but it's going to be $19.99 sometime later this year or early next year. This is how you're going to be chatting with friends, setting up online games. So this is the phone-based app, which is going to work also for voice chat, but it's also going to do stat tracking. So it's going to be similar to your companion apps for other series. You're going to see time in game and wins and losses. You'll see amount of ink covered. You know, you'll get a variety of different stats. Whether or not it'll be functional enough to be able to change your loadouts like others do, or the availability to change your clothing and costumes, because that's a big piece of Splatoon, as well as some of the style aspects there. They didn't really talk about what you're going to be able to do in terms of that functionality, but it's got stat tracking, and both with stages, win losses, percentages with weapons, things like that, and it's going to be able to send messages for private matches. They showed a little bit of what it looks like, but again, it'll be interesting to see how Nintendo actually rolls this out and how clunky it actually is. As we've talked about here on this podcast, or on the Old Band of Gamers podcast, with Zeus's experience with the eShop and the store, in terms of how clunky some of the Switch interface still is in terms of the UI. So it'll be interesting. I'm curious to see. It's only a couple weeks. I know that hopefully we see a little bit more here in terms of what that looks like. But there is another Nintendo interface story, right? We're talking about the eShop and the downloads. And Prime, you've got some news in terms of some sales charts for the Nintendo Switch eShop.
Yeah, so Nintendo of Japan has released its top-selling Nintendo Switch eShop titles for the first half of the year, first half of 2017. And number one, which is, and this is just downloads, this is digital, no brick-and-mortar stuff. But number one, and I'll just go through the top 10, because there's, 25 on this list right now. But top 10, number one, Snipper Clips. Okay, I think you have that, DB, right? You enjoyed that?
Yeah, it's great. It's a good kind of co-op or competitive type of puzzle game. Yep.
Yeah, so co-op, excuse me. Is there an online component to that game?
No, I think it's all couch co-op.
Couch co-op, okay. So yeah, we have number one, Snipper Clips. Number two, Minecraft. Number three, Mario Kart 8. Number 4, Kamiko, which I'm not sure what that is. Number 5, Legend of Zelda. 6 is Neo Geo Metal Slug 3. 7, ARMS, which I believe would have just been about a month or so since it's been released, I guess. So that's up in the top 10. 8 is 1-2 Switch. 9, Neo Geo The King of Fighters 98. And 10, Othello. Okay, classic game. And then there's, like I said, there's 25 total there. So we have, I guess, some notables. Ultra Street Fighter 2 is number 19. It's kind of far down the list. I'm not sure how. What's that? That was released in May, I believe.
Ultra Street Fighter was toward the end of May. Whether or not it released in the UK at the same time, that's maybe a question. So there's anything on that list, Prime, that was surprising to you? That either it was too far down the list, like Ultra Street Fighter, or pretty high up, like Othello?
Yeah, well, I was actually kind of surprised that Minecraft kind of beat out Mario Kart 8, but I guess it's just its own thing, I suppose. Just taking over, and even the Snipper Clips, number 1. But I mean, I guess it's kind of a small, it's a smaller title. And they kind of mentioned this article. I was a little surprised at first with Zelda, but then again, it's a 32 gig download, I believe, with the updates and stuff. So I mean, that pretty much eats up all your memory or all your hard drive space. So I guess if you think about it, it's not too bad.
And that may be the same situation with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, is that it's easier to pick that up as a physical cartridge versus Minecraft is only a download. It's a download only game, so that may be. And it also had another. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's another factor potentially there as well.
There's no physical release for that Minecraft?
Not that I'm aware of. Zeus, are you aware of any physical release for Minecraft for the Switch?
No, but I wouldn't be.
So I know that they did a physical release for the Wii U version, but there's not one for at least at this time, at least in North America. So
yeah, I'm sure it'll get out there eventually.
Yeah. So Zeus, we've candy coated the beginning of our episode with lots of sweet and colorful Nintendo news, but you've got something a little grimy, a little darker, and a little more realistic for us in your first news story.
Yeah, no doubt. So for all of you members of the PC Gaming Master race, you can wake up now. This is our first PC gaming story in the rundown tonight. So Creative Assembly, a beloved studio, veterans of the Age of Empires franchise, on their blog today or earlier this week announced a new franchise, a spin-off of the Total War series, Total War Sagas. And for gamers who played, I guess, one of the older expansion packs called Fall of the Samurai, the franchise's intention is to be similar to that. So these will be, I call them kind of smaller historical vignettes, where instead of kind of focusing at the Empire level, they will be focusing on individual kind of character stories or specific smaller tactical engagements. So the example that Jack Lusted, the game's creative director, pointed to were things like small civil wars or specific skirmishes between specific factions. Now, he was very specific and very detailed in ensuring that people understood the messaging and that these are not smaller games, even though as much as I tried to, I was not able to not use the word smaller in that initial kind of rollout of the story. But the games will be of the same length and duration and complexity. It's just that the span of time that they cover might be something smaller, like 4 months. So they're not revisiting new historical periods right as of right now. The game is described as there will be individual chapters released that kind of focus on more detailed engagements within the historical eras that they've already visited. So specifically, he talked about the eras that they visited in Rome 2, as well as Total War Attila. So there you go. So it's pretty interesting. I'm pretty hyped for it. I don't know that I'll get this. I've played, I think, 2 of the Total War games. They're so big. They're a lot to me like Madden. Like, I don't feel the need to revisit that franchise every single year or every single release. But they are wonderful games in an era, again, where there's not a ton of real-time strategy games being released. It's interesting and nice to hear that they'll be doing things. And I'm a history buff as well. I was a history major in undergrad, so it might be interesting to get pull the camera in a little closer and focus on a specific character or a specific family or sets of relationships. So do either of you guys play that series?
Yeah, I've played the original, the Shogun, Total War Shogun, and then the most recent one I had played was only Rome, so I haven't been keeping up on it lately. But I loved the settings, the aspect of being able to throw people into real historic battles. And kind of those dynamics. So I think that this announcement is a great way to continue to honor that history, but also to keep people engaged in that gameplay without having to find a giant set of a big conflict, a giant time period to have to wrestle with, where they can get in and get out and focus that conflict a little bit more, which I think is probably going to benefit the gameplay.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how they handle family trees in the smaller setting. If you played those series, like when you play Total War Rome, like your family tree easily could span like a 2560 by 1440 monitor, right? It's just your family history can get very huge with all the branches. So it'll be interesting. But so that's the PC gaming news segment. We maybe should have warned you at the outsetting. If you don't like financial news, you need to buckle down, because there's a lot of financial news and a lot of sales news. That's just the cycle. We just got done with E3, so people aren't talking so much now about the new games that are coming. But Prime, I guess, has the second financial news story of the night.
Yes, I do. I have stolen your thunder. Usually you bring the financial stuff, Zeus, so that I had to, mix it up a little. So, yeah, I got Japanese console market actually has grown for the first time in 3 years, according to Famitsu, big Japanese, actually probably the Japanese video game magazine out there in Japan. And this was translated, by Japanese game industry analyst Dr. Serkan Todo. So combined hardware and console sales and software sales from December 26, 2016 to June 25th, 2017 totaled 153.2 billion yen, and that's $1.35 billion. And that's an increase, a year-over-year increase, 14.8%. And like I said, it's the first markup or first, revenue rise in the last 3 years. And they kind of go on to explain that more than likely this is a big part of it's the Switch out there. It's sold pretty well out there too. It's sold over 1 million units in Japan since its launch on March 3rd. And it's helping the industry. It's good because it's kind of lacking, and they kind of cite mobile gaming is big, huge over there. So that was starting to eat up the sales over there. But it's good to see that they're hopefully coming back around, going back up, rising up. So any comments on that?
So yeah, I was gonna you hit it. I was gonna mention over there, mobile gaming is a much bigger deal than it is here in the U.S. I want to say it was the only place that the Vita had any margin of success, and the 3DS, despite the high MSRP that it originally launched with, didn't struggle as much with uptake over there as it did in other places. And in many ways, the Switch, even though Nintendo doesn't like to say so, is a mobile console, mobile but with all the power of what a Nintendo console should have in this generation.
I'll say that's a good thing, I guess, the way you said that. Yeah, so yeah, that's good. Well, it's good that their console market's going up there. So so from a rise to a crash, I believe, Zeus, you have an article about one Mr. Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, very very nice segue there, Mister. You're getting good at this.
I learned that from DB. Thank you, DB.
It only took us 100 episodes, right?
Yeah, you know what? Slow learner.
So yeah, let's continue with the sales news in the barrel. So over in the UK, because we know that I love the UK sales charts. News comes out that Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy took the #1 spot in UK software sales. That game is only available on the PlayStation 4 right now, so that's another kind of crude tip of the hat in its direction, because it's not available and selling on multiple consoles. Surprisingly, they say surprisingly, I say amazingly, Micro Machines World Series, which is being bandied about as a pretty horrific game, took the #2 spot. So it's an awful shame that I guess that game traded on everyone's childhood nostalgia, and lots of people went out and got it, and it is not good, is my understanding. Let's take a look at the rest of the charts and kind of talk about what might be surprising or not surprising.
Real quick, Zeus.
Go ahead.
Before you go on, do you think that's more of a, like you kind of mentioned, it's more of a nostalgia thing that's kind of up there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. People
this.
We're gonna have to talk about this one day, but like, if you're not in games journalism, like I am not. This is just my opinion. I know you guys might not sync up or might have different opinions. I feel like there's not a lot of value in pre-ordering a game that you're unsure about, right? If it's a game in a franchise and it's guaranteed to be a solid hit or be right in your wheelhouse, okay. Pre-order Destiny 2, yeah, that makes sense, right? Pre-order the next Halo or Gears of War, okay. But Micro Machines, I don't know that you should go out and pre-order that. Take your time, read a review. So the rest of the sales chart, Grand Theft Auto 5 stays up there. Forza Horizon 3, I was glad. I'm a player of that game and have been playing it recently, so it was nice to see it up. At number 4, Overwatch stays strong at 6. Elite Dangerous, did that just go fun? Has it been in like early access all the way up until now, and then it just recently went?
It also just recently released for PS4 as well, so they put a box copy out for both Xbox and PS4.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. Mario Kart 8 in at number 8. The game that I just recently purchased, Dirt 4, in at number 9. Very nice to see. Of course, this is in the UK. Those suckers love them some Rally, right? So, it'll be interesting to see how it plays in the US. Rocket League still at number 10. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, despite all the buzz about it not being a great game. I think that's a lot of buzz from people who haven't played it. Tekken 7 in at 13. Injustice 2 at 15. Horizon Zero Dawn, another game I've been playing at number 17. ARMS at 18. That's an interesting one, DB. Did you buy the Wipeout Omega Collection? Because we talked about that several episodes ago.
So I'm tempted to, but I think I'll probably wait for another price drop because it's something I do want to play. But it doesn't surprise me that it topped the top 20 in the UK because it fits into that kind of racing genre. And a lot of the techno music that was in there back in the PlayStation 1 days was a lot of UK techno as well.
Yeah, and then I'll throw this out for both of your opinions, because I think both of you play these franchises more than I do, although I did buy Battlefield 1 last year. What is the deal with Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, by reputation, the lesser game, in at number 11, while Battlefield barely sneaks into the top of the chart at position number 20?
Oh man, that's a good question, because even I admit that the Battlefield 1 is the better game of the two. I guess it's just that Call of Duty shooter, juggernaut that's more or less still going, even though it's starting to slow down a little, like in sales, even though it still usually tops the charts. But I don't know. I guess that's the only thing I can think of.
I guess I'll ask before you jump in, DB. In terms of longevity, right? Because it's always interesting to see how a game sale goes the further you get from release. I guess one of my questions is Battlefield 1, very strong in my opinion, single-player campaign, although I heard Infinite Warfare's was good too, but was probably shorter. Is that part of the dynamic, DB? Is it that because Call of Duty is maybe arguably the more engaging multiplayer, that's going to give it stronger sales legs the further we get from the launch window of those two games?
I would think that part of it is just kind of trading on the name, that there is still some of that cachet that's built up over time. I think that Battlefield 1 has a really strong multiplayer, but it's stronger in squads and teams versus solo play. So it's certainly Call of Duty is traditionally easier to pick up and play. And so I think that may be the other piece I would be interested in, is to see what those numbers were last month. And if any of the hype around Call of Duty World War II boosted it back up from 18, 17, somewhere back up to where it is now. If kind of it got people excited, it gave them a reason to jump back in and play that last franchise.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's our crash course in gaming finance for the evening. DB, what else are kids getting crash courses in these days, back on our side of the pond?
Well, on our side, over in UC Irvine, it sounds like not only can they get a crash course, but they can get a scholarship for certain esports. And so other schools have done this, but this is the first time that I've seen kind of a big name public university. So, Prime, you've got the story here in terms of one of the big multiplayer games from last year.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, University of California, Irvine plans to offer an Overwatch-based scholarship to students later this year. And this is part of their esports initiative, just kind of overall that they do. So basically, they'll select applicants probably, well, it says here, 15, 20 hours a week. You get to do esports training sessions, team meetings, competitions, community service, and other such projects. So, so it's cool, I guess. I mean, I don't even know, like, and then they mentioned in this article from Gamma Sutra, there's actually a bunch of colleges that are universities that offer more just esports, not specific Overwatch, but esports scholarship programs. Also on hand, they'll to help players with their potential, and they'll have dedicated coaches, analysts, trainers, psychologists will be on hand to offer feedback and advice and stuff like that. So I mean, seems pretty serious. I mean, it's kind of weird, I guess.
Stinking millennials.
So I'll play a counter argument to it, and if Overwatch League becomes a real thing, right? Blizzard has been struggling to get investors in cities to invest in this, but if it actually becomes something where there is established teams and established cities, and there is a league around it with salaries and not just kind of a Dodo prize pool that people are playing for, suddenly this becomes, there's a little more legitimacy to it,
Yeah, and I'll engender your counter, right? Because this is a little bit of balancing of the culture here in America, in the continuation of the meek shall inherit the earth, right? So for decades, many of us have stood in the shadow of elite athletes who have gone on and gotten very large scholarships. And whether it's true or not, right, the perception is that those guys aren't necessarily, guys and girls maybe, aren't held to the same academic standards. So bravo. I'll be curious to see as this continues, right, where does our culture wind up? I would be very curious to find out, do those gaming students get held? Do they experience some leniency, right, in terms of academic compliance?
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. I mean, not until it gets to the level of big name sponsorships, right? But I think one of the articles I read back when some of the other schools that Prime was talking about started offering it is they were talking about the types of students that they find are attracted to, whether it's Dota or Overwatch or Counter-Strike. These are students who are in the STEM fields. These are engineering students. These are computer science students. These are the students that a lot of schools are trying to attract. These are high demand industries, and so they're also probably a higher percentage full pay students or less of a discounted tuition. So I'm sure there are many economics in play here of why, not just to be trendy and popular with millennials, but there are probably some other dynamics here which will be interesting to see if they actually come to fruition 4 years down the road.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And just one last thing, the whole initiative too, the esports initiative, at least at Irvine, is being backed by League of Legends developer Riot Games. So they got some good muscle behind them. Yeah.
So Overwatch scholarships can get you lots of loot boxes to unlock those sweet skins of Lucio or Tracer or even the new Doomfist, which was announced. And we're not even covering that as news. Doomfist is actually a real character with gameplay even now for the first time. So if any Overwatch player,
I don't know who that
Prime
is.
is shaking his head.
I have no idea who that is. I don't know what you're talking about.
An Overwatch villain who's been teased in the lore, who's been kind of has posters up around different some of the maps that Terry Crews has been kind of teasing him in social media in terms of being the voice for him, and that's finally a story here. But you don't even have to open a loot box to get a character like that. But there are some stories about loot boxes from last week that I want to go back to here. We've got 2 stories to wrap up our evening, whether you're a PC player or a console player, with Battlefield 2. So Battlefield had their alpha, and there was some concern and some aspects there on Eurogamer and some other places of that the loot boxes maybe, how much they lean into pay to win. The loot boxes in Overwatch are skins and sprays and voices, but they're talking about the potential that they are gun unlocks, or that they can be broken down into crafting material, which would then allow you to purchase additional weapons or boosts and things like that. And so it is not the So there is some concern, right? There's a question here. We don't know enough about it, if it's going to go the Battlefield 1 route where you're unlocking, skins and colors of different guns, or if it goes the route of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which we were just talking about as well, where your loot boxes are almost essential to unlocking certain weapons or perks and things. So that's the kind of concerning Battlefield 2 news out of the alpha. But Zeus, you've got another story that is a little more exciting about some of the other stuff that is coming out of the alpha as well.
Yeah, let me say the E2KGn30 cast segues are on fire tonight. So, for Battlefield, and actually before I get to that, I do want to cover one of the stories we pulled. I know we wanted to stay on time, but I already put it in the show title, which is displayed on YouTube, and so I don't want to have to edit it. So very quickly, back to a Nintendo story. eBay has established a new policy, or is trying to line up their policy for eBay UK. And they are pulling Super NES mini listings in an attempt to counter scalpers. So this story is up over on GameIndustry.biz, and basically within minutes of the Super NES Classic being announced, there were all sorts of people who put up, who put the console up for sale, who pre-ordered it and then went to eBay and immediately put it up for sale at inflated prices. So I wanted to put the story in the rundown because we did have a viewer of the live show, either on Monday or maybe last Thursday, who specifically asked us what our opinion was on the impact that scalpers have on us as gadget lovers and game lovers, and whether or not there was anything that could be done to counter it. And here it sits. So eBay is taking the fight directly to the scalpers, and basically it's nothing new. It's actually simply them enforcing a policy that eBay has to not permit sales of goods that cannot reasonably be delivered within 30 days. And again, the other soundbite from their spokesman was that they're also just trying to get the UK instance of eBay to align to the way that they're doing things in North America. There is conjecture that they may have been contacted by Nintendo and specifically asked to help counter this behavior, so they may have reacted to that. And the Super NES Mini arrives on September 29th and has 21 games, including Star Fox 2. Interesting soundbite there is apparently one of the members of the development team of that game had no idea that Star Fox 2 was being included in the console. So,
yeah, Q Games, Dylan Cuthbert has been vocal about being excited about that it's out there, but was surprised about it as well.
Yeah, well, corporate is as corporate does, right? So our final story for the night, Star Wars Battlefront 2 Alpha has been data mined, and new heroes were found. So this is a story actually up on Destructoid, which doesn't always do a ton of news. They do a lot more thought pieces, in my opinion, but this is an interesting get from them. So right now, there's a Battlefront 2 Alpha going on, closed Alpha, which is supposed to be under NDA, but apparently, and I'm not sure if this happened just from somebody playing the alpha and observing the hero characters that were made available, but they spilled the beans. And so let's go ahead and run down the list because it's already out there, so it's not like we're the ones who are leaking it. Boba Fett and Han Solo, which I'm pretty sure were shown in the E3 EA demo. Leia and Luke, which I don't remember seeing in the demo, but who would have thought that they wouldn't be in there? Bossk, the bounty hunter from The Empire Strikes Back. Chewbacca, Darth Vader, the Emperor is a surprise to me, and wondering how he's going to be represented. Are we going to get old Emperor from Return of the Jedi who shoots lightning from his fingertips? Or are we going to get the crazy Senator? What was the name again?
Palpatine.
I know. Yes, Senator Palpatine, who's jumping around all over the place from the prequels. General Grievous, who I think was known. Iden, who is played by lead actress Janina Vanikar or Gavankar from True Blood. Obviously, we knew she was going to be in the single player campaign. I don't think it was confirmed for certain that she would be a playable character in multiplayer. Kylo Ren, who I think we knew. We definitely knew Darth Maul was. John Boyega told us that Captain Phasma was going to be there. Now, it's interesting that they listed it in this data mining leak because when John Boyega announced it at the E3 EA demo or keynote, supposedly she was going to arrive in the first DLC pack that would be released, which I would think wouldn't hit until like spring of 2018. And they did mention Rey, which we knew, and they did mention Yoda, which we also knew. So I don't really feel like this is really a big, huge leak. I guess the one I didn't mention was Lando will be a playable hero character in the game, and that I do believe was unknown. So there we go. Theoretically, we know all, or at least most, of the hero characters that are going to be available in the initial release of Star Wars Battlefront 2.
So the speculation I read about this was that the balance of Empire to Rebellion people is off by one character, that there's one more character on the Empire side than there is on the Rebellion side, or the bad guys versus the good guys. And
so the count, I'm going to recount, but the count I see right now is it's an even number for the total.
Okay. Well, then maybe I was reading the speculation wrong. But there was speculation about that if the main character from the single player campaign, does she count as an Empire character, or does she get moved over to the Rebellion at some point in time during the single player, and that balances back out? So that was one of the speculation points out there in the Star Wars lore aspect of the game.
From this listing, it is unbalanced, but the differential is 2, again, just because it's an even number. So I count 9 bad guys. And I'm including Iden in that bad guy list, and then 7 good guys.
Well, if you want to get technical,
yeah. So
not
all of them.
Bosker, bounty hunters, so they can go either way, really, if you got the money.
Yes, that's so
to nerd out a little bit there.
Yeah, that might be an interesting element in the game. But yes, Star Wars nerds will definitely argue that Boss is technically not a member of the Empire, nor is really Grievous.
Yeah, no, right. You get the bad guys, you get the separatists, so, but I won't go down that canonical rabbit hole. So
the nerd hole.
No, we could do that on another podcast.
Well, I got to do one more though. Technically, Maul is not a member of the Empire because there was no Empire when Darth Maul was in canon. So
this is true. This is very true. Okay, we will
stop the nerdiness now.
We'll argue this out on a Monday show, and everybody will hate it. But no, we are wrapping up. We are just over our 30-minute mark. This is E2KGn30. We'll be back here on Monday night. No holiday week to get us around. Oh, and BB-8 Prime is gonna be his character. So everybody out there, look for Osiris Prime, and he'll be very easy to take down in multiplayer matches of Battlefront 2, whether you're on the PC or PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. So we will be back here Monday night, and we will have another topic and a discussion, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we've been playing, and we'll again continue to talk about people's comments online, comments on Gearworks, comments in our YouTube channel. If you've got comments like the person who asked us about what the impact of Scalpers does in terms of that, ask us those questions. You give us fodder for future comments and future conversations. And then you can tell us how wrong we are as well. So until that time when you have some comments for us, or until Monday night, whichever comes first, we will see you then. Good night.